Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Meet the Author. Today, I have Rachel Leigh with me. Rachel, thank you so much for jumping on with me today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Obviously, you had a book that just came out at the end of July. We're going to be talking about that a lot today. But I always like to start these with kind of just an easy icebreaker question. So I have to know, are you more of a vanilla or chocolate girl?
Vanilla.
Vanilla.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Some people answer, like they like vanilla cake or like vanilla ice cream.
that's
And
what
then
I
they
was
like
gonna
the sweet
say.
treat, like they want like the piece of chocolate.
Yeah, if it's ice cream, it's vanilla. If it's cake,
Okay.
it's chocolate. So
Okay.
I like the twist. I
It's
like
the
them
best of
both.
both worlds.
Yeah.
My grandma always used to say it's a yes please. You don't have to pick, it's a yes please. You get everything you want. If you want vanilla and chocolate, boom, it's a yes please. You get both.
Yeah.
Perfect
Why
way to go
choose?
about life. Kind of fitting for, our
Yeah,
YT book that we're gonna talk about today. It's a yes
exactly.
please. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for jumping on today. Before we jump into the book, obviously, if people are stumbling upon this interview, for the first time, I want them to get to know you a little bit. Obviously, this is called Meet the Author. So just give us a quick rundown of who you are, how you got into writing, and, where your career is at now, and just give people a little overview about you.
All right. Well, I'm Rachel Leigh, and I write enemies to lovers, new adult, um, romance. Most of it has like suspense and dark elements. Some white shoes. I have a few white shoes series, and yeah.
Can you kind of talk about like your career and what did you always know that you wanted to be an author? Is it something that like later on in life you were like, I want to give this a try? There's so many different stories and unique stories, when I talk to people about, oh yeah, I knew from when I was, 3 that I wanted to do this, or other people like, no, it wasn't really till college that I kind of like had this, inkling in the back of my mind.
No, I actually never intended to be an author. Never thought I would be. Even after writing my first book, I still didn't intend to be. It just all kind of came about. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I had just finished reading a series. It was the After series by Anna Todd, and I had that book hangover, and I'm like, what? I couldn't get into anything after that. I'm like, I don't know what to read, and um, so I was like, I'm just gonna write my own, which I did write some when I was younger, but nothing that, I never considered myself a writer. Like in my teenage years, I would write some poetry and short stories, and it was nothing, I never once in my mind thought I want to be a writer or I'm an author. It was just something that kind of, you know, it just happened. So I wrote my first book, and then I shared it with a couple friends, and they were like, "This is really good. You should publish this." And I'm like, "What? I wouldn't even know how to do that." So then I spent days like researching. I had never heard of KDP. I never knew that you could just self-publish a book. So I
Mhm.
did so much research, and I just was like, "Okay, I'll give it a try." And then I just loved it. I mean, writing my first book that I published was just, it was, I still say it was my favorite book I ever wrote. There was no pressure. It was just, take my time, have fun with it. In my mind, it was something that only people I knew were going to read.
Mhm.
So I loved it. And then I published it, loved the experience. And then after that one, I was like, well, I want to do another one. So then I just kept going with it.
It was kind of like Pandora's box at that point. Once you
Yeah.
had the taste of it and you got to do it once, you're like, wait, I can't let this go.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I remember taking my kids to the park because my two youngest were, I think my son was one, and then my middle child was 3.5. And I remember taking them to the park and like pushing them on the swing and then trying to type into my phone because at that point I was like, I was writing my first book. A lot of it I did write on my phone and Google Docs. And like I was carrying my phone around with me everywhere, like when I'd have ideas and just start writing. So
I
yeah.
think that's so cool. Again, talking to so many different people, like how people go about writing. I mean, the fact that you were able to get to write it on your phone. I think like Abby Jimenez too. Like she writes a ton of things like on her phone. Like she like talked about in an interview or something. She's like, yeah, like 90% of my books like are written in my notes app. I'm like, that's bizarre to me, but it's
It's
so cool.
convenient. It's convenient. And you never know when inspiration might hit. So,
It's
I
just
mean, it's
so
been a
cool.
while. I definitely use my notepad a lot. Like if ideas
Mhm.
come to me, I'll use my notepad when I'm out and about. But as far as writing now, I can't write like scenes on my phone anymore. For some reason, it's just hard for me to do that. I can't like get in that mental space. But yeah,
What
I
is
definitely take notes.
what is your writing process like more now, that you're further into this, been doing it for a couple of years. What is that like for you now? Since you said it is different, you can't write those scenes
Yeah.
the way that you used to. Kind of walk me through what that looks like for you. Like you just wrote this book, you just published this one. What was that kind of process from start to finish looking like?
Yeah. Well, like on a day-to-day basis, normally my kids would be in school, but it's summer break. So this one that I wrote most of the one I just published. I
Mhm.
wrote like a good chunk of it while they were on summer break. So it's like whenever I have time, like my kids are with me all day, every day. So it's not like I had like set time. I just kind of, I didn't do a lot of writing. I have my laptop with me, and when they're occupied, I'd sit and I'd write some, and um, there was no set schedule. But when they're in school, I try to do what I can while they're gone, so that then I'm done working when they get home from school. But as far as like the process of it, I, I don't really even have a process. I wing it. Like I'm a
Are you
pantser.
more you're a pantser? I was about to say, are you more of a
Yeah,
plotter or a
yeah.
pantser?
Yeah, I have like key points and things that I know are going to happen and that need to happen. But as far as like chapter by chapter, I don't outline. I kind of break it up, like what happens in the beginning, the middle, and the end, and then I just fill it all in, and it just comes to me as I go. And half of the time, if I've tried to outline, it changes by the time I'm like on chapter 3, and I'm like the whole outline's done for. So it's yeah, it just doesn't work out for me that way. I can't stick to an outline.
For a series like this, do you go in before you even begin writing and knowing that you want to do a whole series? Or is it like, knowing, you have this kind of concept for a first book? Okay, obviously, as you write it, maybe things change, your ideas change, the characters lead you in a different direction. And then do you be like, okay, wait, maybe I want to do another one? Or like, now I have a plan for book 3, book 4, is that how it goes? Or do you start off being like, okay, I have this new series idea and this is, we're going to have 3 books total. That's kind of like how you plot things ahead.
Yeah, with this one, I knew most of my series. I knew I do have a duet that was supposed to be a standalone, and that turned into a duet. But like this one, I knew it was going to be a 3 book series. I knew that they would end on cliffhangers, and like I knew overall what was going to happen. Um, but a lot of stuff changed as I started going. But I do have some, like I said, I have a duet, and I think my second series I did, that was I didn't plan on it being a 4 book series. I planned on it being 3, and then it ended up being 4. So it can change, but for the most part, I pretty much know when I go into it.
I feel like for this one, especially, people can kind of you can notice that, especially with those big cliffhangers. With Break Your Fucking Heart, everyone was like, "What?
Yeah.
What's happening here?" And then, obviously, with your newest release, "Bend the Fucking Rule," it picks up right where you left off. Kind of talk. If you had to explain, even if someone is just stumbling upon this interview for the first time, we're talking about the new book most, but you have to go, read the first book first. If you had to give them an idea, what the world's like, what this series is going to entail, if you had to break it down in a couple of sentences, to get someone to be drawn in and be like, oh, okay, I want to go pick this up, what would you
Yeah.
describe it as?
I would say it is a steamy, suspenseful. That it's loaded with suspense. Why choose? Meaning the heroine has multiple love interests, and those relationships grow throughout the series. There's hockey, so that's a big part of it. A secret society that involves the hockey players. They live in a hockey house, and yeah, and like I said, lots of suspense. There's just a suspense plot that goes through the whole series. So.
I think those are the most, for me personally, like romantic suspense is one of my favorite,
Mhm.
obviously it's a subgenre of romance, but it's so fun the whole time because you get the kind of thriller, suspenseful aspects that you're flipping the page every single time, but then you get the spicy scenes, you get the other stuff
Yeah.
too. So it's like, the perfect merriment of different stuff. But when you get a series like this too, that it's like, okay, you're kind of, you know, into maybe rooting for one person, one guy in the first book, and then things happen and now you're in book 2 and you're like, okay, I still love you, but now I really like you. Kind of
Exactly.
fun to watch those characters evolve. What is that like for you, writing all these different characters and knowing it's going to be, one of those plots that if maybe people aren't used to this kind of why choose, types of series, that maybe it's their first time, but you want
Mhm.
them to love each character in a different way, in a unique way. What is that like for you, getting to write so many variety of characters and different personalities, but you want everyone to love them all?
Yeah, I love it. I love giving her options. um, I love, building the relationships and the character growth because these guys aren't, just your typical friendly guys you bump into. I mean, they all have a backstory, and their growth is one of my favorite things. Watching them like grow with her and, changing some of their bad boy ways to be better for her. That's one of my favorite. Um, as for like if somebody's reading it and has never read Why Choose and didn't know what to expect, I think with this one, like I sort of did it. It's not like they're a group of friends who are all just like, oh, let's all share this girl and we're all
Yeah.
going to have a relationship with her. They're kind of eased into it. So I think that helps, like, for a reader who hasn't read Why Choose, because then they're like, oh, but she, she's also got this thing going, I could see her with this guy, but I can see her with this guy. So then, it's just a win-win for everybody.
And it's so fun again to see like how you do it that way that it's not again, I mean, you come into a situation that's all of a sudden like, oh, group of friends, oh, we're gonna, be like this in a certain way.
Mhm.
It gives readers a chance to kind of fall in love with one character and then see how it evolves with another character in different ways. And so you get that time, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Like you get that time with, the specific characters at a certain time in the book when it really makes sense that readers are like, wait, I genuinely like love you now too. And I can see why your personality is so good. I'm going to ask you a hard question though now. Out of these
Okay.
guys, do you have a favorite or one that was at least like the most fun for you to write?
Um, I hate picking favorites, but I do really have a soft spot for Adric. He's definitely going to be a challenge because and the guys with like his character are always are the ones who are seem like the most unlovable, but then they always end up being the most lovable. And I'm just I'm really excited to dive into the third book and really like build his character arc because we haven't seen his point of view yet. And so we don't know what's going on in his head, and I'm excited to get inside of his head. So I'm going to say him. I don't think any of them have really been tough to write.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I could say the relationship aspect between, the relationships that have formed this far, but it actually seemed pretty effortless the way that, everything worked out. So I wouldn't say a least favorite, and I hate picking favorites, but I'm going to say I have a soft spot for Adric.
I really like, going with Adric and stuff like that. I was going back and like seeing what other people were thinking about, about the book and stuff too. And so many comments and just like reviews, people are like, I can't wait to get into his head, but also he's got to grovel. Like in my, he's got
Yeah,
to do some groveling. And
got a lot of groveling to
I've seen
do.
so many people that are like, I can't wait to see inside of his head, but like I need this man to grovel in book three. Like
Yeah.
I need to see that full redemption arc, but he's gotta work for it a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I know. And after the first book, everyone's like, no, I've had people tell me nobody's going to beat Callan. Like, he's my all time favorite. And then book two released, and they're like, oh my gosh, I love Sebastian. Now I can't decide between. So I'm hoping that's the same with Adric. And they're just like, I love them all. I can't pick. So that's kind of my goal
I
for
think, I
that.
mean,
For readers, just love them all.
I think how you're setting it up again is exactly that. You kind of set it up for book one and then book two and book three, and then it all comes together in a way that everyone's just, again, gonna love everyone. And it's like a whole family aspect. And the
Yeah.
suspense, I'm sure, is gonna be off the charts in the next one. And just keeping people, flipping the pages. What is that like for you, to get to write the darker, suspenseful type of things, that, because that's not more typical, I would say, in romance. I mean, it is definitely a subgenre, but it's not common, like as common as other things. So, what is that like that you get to explore that a little bit more often with your books?
I love the suspense part. Like most all of my books have some element of suspense, and it's hard for me to even imagine writing a book without suspense at this point, just because I love it so much, and I love the dark elements. I just, I don't know. It's just the little part of my dark heart that loves writing those. Um, yeah, I can't imagine not having some kind of suspense plot because I love like making readers guess, and I like throwing in like little twists and turns, and like it gives me those giddy feelings, like especially when they guess and they're wrong. Like
You're like, ha
that's
ha
a
ha.
little evil side of me. Yeah.
Do you ever have your characters, because again, I've talked to authors and they're like, the characters do something that I don't expect with the suspense aspect and just certain things going on. Have you ever had to like have an idea in your head and then it doesn't shape up exactly how you wanted it to be because the characters, behaved a certain way, acted a certain way, that
Mhm.
it kind of changed the story?
All the time, all the time. Like I said before, if I tried outlining, like by chapter 3, I'm throwing the outline out the window because it changes, and like just one small scene can change the whole thing. And that happened in book 1. The ending actually wasn't supposed to be the way it was, but then I got to the end and it just the idea was in my head. And I texted my alpha reader. I'm like, why do I feel the need to do this? And she's like, do it, do it. I'm like, no, I can't, they'll hate me. She's like, do it. So she talked me into it, and I did. And that changed like the whole trajectory of the whole series at that point, because it changed book 2.
Mhm.
I won't say too much, but it just changed a lot of things. The main key points were still there, the suspense aspect, but it changed a lot with the relationships. So yeah, it happens a lot.
Do you have to have like a whiteboard or, a doc or something of all the things that you kind of want, just because with it, potentially changing and it's not
Mhm.
original aspects that you were like, okay, like this is doing something different. I like where this is going, but now how do I weave this back in? Like, do you have to keep something that has everything there? Because I feel like myself, I would be like, wait, what did I write before? What did I say was going to happen? What did I lead up to?
My alpha reader is like a godsend because she does that for me. She creates a board that we share, and she'll add in things as she's going. So we use a Trello board, and she's just amazing. She adds stuff in. So then, like, I can be like, hey, do you remember this? And she'll be like, go look at the board. And so I will. Speaking of, I got logged out of that. I was trying to get into it not too long ago, and I got logged out. So I'm going to have to ask her for the information on that. But yeah, she's amazing. She helps me with that. So we do have something, but a lot of stuff, just I take tons of notes. I have a notepad, and I go through a whole notepad in each book, just taking random little notes, and then I'll have to sort through them and be like, what was this for? But yeah, we keep track, sort of. I'm a little unorganized, so thankfully I have her. But yeah,
Sounds like a dream team, having someone that
yes.
has your back like that and understands
Hmm.
the way your brain works too, in a way that's like, when you're like, wait, what did I do? She's like, don't worry, I got you.
Yeah, she's amazing.
What is, your typical timing if like again, we just published this book. What's like kind of that start to finish timeline process usually? Obviously, you publish a few books and I feel like it's a pretty quick in my
Hmm.
mind. They come
Yeah.
pretty quickly. Like, so what is that, timeline for you? Because obviously you're coming up with this concept and then you have X amount of time, before the book gets released. What is that like on your end, being the author?
Well, it used to be a lot more chaotic than it is now. I've learned to space things out a little bit more. I was in the past releasing a book like every 2 months. I'd give myself a month to write it and then a month for edits, arcs, and that sort of stuff. Now it's more like every 3 to 4 months. It takes me about a month and a half to write the book. 1 month is usually getting through like the beginning because it takes me forever. Like, but once I get past like, I don't know, I'd say like chapter 10, it's a breeze. Then I just kind of go through it. It's usually the beginning that gives me the hardest time, but I'd say about a month and a half to write it. And then I'd like to have a month for edits, arcs, things like that. Sometimes I fall behind. Um, and that's kind of been happening a lot, especially with my, kids' sports, things like that. So I try to factor that in. But I'd say like 3 to 4 months between each book is pretty much what's working for me right now.
Do you feel like you're able, like, being able to step outside and have, time with, your kids being home and stuff like that, and just giving yourself a little bit more time, that you feel like the writing process is a little bit easier now, that you don't feel like as much pressure on yourself, that you have a little bit of room to breathe?
So much. I mean, before when I was publishing every 2 months, I like I felt like I lived for writing, and I was like, I was so consumed by it, and it's because I loved it so much, but I wasn't prioritizing right. I wasn't taking care of my own mental health, and I knew I needed to make a change because as much as I loved it, like, my family needed me. I had to take care of myself. So I was like, I have to widen that gap and give myself more time because I would like stress right. Like it would come down to deadlines and I would be like wake up writing, go to sleep writing, and like it was chaotic. But now that I've changed things, it's like I love it more. I feel like I'm putting more focus on it. Like it's just everything just seems a lot more smooth. Yeah.
That makes sense, and I'm glad that you took the time to,
Yeah.
prioritize yourself and your health and your family and stuff like that. That's so important. And as readers, obviously, you love getting to read authors' books, but at the end of the day, you want them to be healthy and happy, their best self. Because
Yeah.
then, when they're their best self, I really feel like it really reflects in, work and stuff like that. When it comes to writing series like this one, I'm assuming you're getting ready to write book 3. You're already, kind of maybe in the process of that. Do you feel like the further you're into a series, it's easier, because you said it's a little bit hard to get the book going. So it's easier for you to get kind of over that hump at the beginning and you write the books faster? Or is it in the same way, then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm letting them go? So you try to slow it down a little bit more because you don't want it to end.
100%. I know book 2 was so much easier to get through the beginning because I knew what was going to happen. Like the world had already been built. The first book was difficult for me because I'm building the world, and I have a tendency to like info dump when I do that. Like everybody needs to know all the rules, ranks, everything of the secret society, and I'll info dump. And then like my alpha readers and beta readers will be like, okay, move this chunk, like totally rearrange it because it's just a whole chapter of information. So they help me break that up a little bit. The first book, yeah, in the series was much more difficult than the second. The second one, I already, it was a cliffhanger. I jumped right back into where the first book left off. So it was almost like I was writing the same book. There was just a little bit of a time jump there. And the third book, I think, will be the same. However, the third book is where I have to make sure everything's wrapped up. So the ending is what might take me a little bit longer because, there with suspense, there's going to be open mysteries that you need to make sure you solve because like if it's not closed and the series is done, people are going to be like, what the heck happened? Like whatever happened to this person? And like it's something that I have to really spend some time on in the end to make sure that everything's done there.
Taking a break for a second from specifically talking about, this book, when you are not writing, which I know you said, you love to do, so that's why you do it so
Yeah.
often. You are a mom, you have a family. What do you like to do in your free time when you have a chance, to step away from writing your desk and that kind of thing? What's one of your favorite things to do?
Like all my free time is with my kids pretty much. Like before this, I just got back from football practice for my son. So yeah, it's my day to day is with my kids. When they're in school, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit excited.
I feel
I
like
get a little
most
bit of a
parents
break.
feel that way. I don't think you have to, like, I feel like once it gets to the end of the summer, most parents have that sentiment. They're like, I love my children. I'm ready for them to go back.
I am, and I'm already thinking on the first day that they go back, I'm gonna take a nap. I'm not gonna work at all. I'm gonna watch a show. Yeah, I most of my time is with my kids. We do just random stuff. Go to the park. Right now, I'm planning my son's birthday party. His birthday's tomorrow. He'll be 8. So just stuff like that. We had a yard sale, not to, just family stuff. I like to cook. I like to bake. Just random stuff like that. Just anything with my kids and my family.
Happy early birthday to your son.
Thank you. I'll tell him.
What's one of your things to bake?
I just most recently made blueberry lemon bread because we went blueberry picking. And
Ooh.
yeah, so that was one of the things I made recently. I like to make banana bread, cookies, just random stuff, whatever sounds good, and I
I
have the ingredients for.
I totally get that. I love banana bread. My husband is not big into bananas, and it makes me so upset because, like, I will still make it, but then I'm like, I'm gonna eat this whole loaf by myself, and I
Yeah.
don't need to do that. I know that I don't need to eat that much banana bread, but I'm like, but it sounds good. But he may take like a bite of mine, and he's like, nope, still don't like bananas. I'm like,
Oh, like
come
zucchini
on,
bread.
man.
What about zucchini? Is he a fan of that?
He likes zucchini.
Yeah, zucchini bread. Oh, I could never get on board with zucchini bread, but I love banana bread. But some people they like zucchini, don't like banana. It's
I've never tried zucchini bread. I might have to
Oh,
look.
really?
No.
Oh, I don't, maybe it's like a Midwest thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because everybody around here makes zucchini bread. But
Huh.
I just can't. I'm like a vegetable and bread just does not sound right to me.
See, on the topic of like breads, I have had like zucchini and squash together though. And it's usually around Thanksgiving, but like Boston Market has the squash casserole and it's like zucchini and squash and then cornbread all mixed together. So I can
Oh, okay.
see where the zucchini bread would be really good because that cornbread and squash and zucchini casserole is like one of my favorite things ever. I make it every year for
Oh,
Thanksgiving now. And like when I take it to friends' house or like family's house, it's to the point now that they're like calling me and they're like, "Are you coming for Thanksgiving? Can you bring that casserole?" And you wouldn't think, people, especially like kids will still eat it because
yeah.
it's got cornbread and stuff in it, but then it's literally just cornbread, cheese, zucchini, and like squash and a ton
Oh,
of butter.
I
So it's not that
love
healthy, but it's
bread.
still got the vegetables in it and
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to try that sometime.
I think if you just look up like Boston Market squash casserole, like
Yeah.
copycat recipe or something, you could probably find it online. It's fantastic. Again, it's great for Thanksgiving. But that makes me think maybe I would really like zucchini bread because
Yeah,
zucchini.
you'll have to give that a try.
I'm gonna have to look it up. Maybe I'll bake this weekend, and like that's what I'll try to do.
Yeah, trick your husband. Be like, "You wanna try some of my banana bread?"
Like, this is the weirdest banana
Yeah.
ever. Before we wrap things up today, is there anything that I didn't ask you that maybe you just want to say to readers or you want to talk about, or maybe if there's any kind of sneak peeks or things you're excited that's coming in book three that maybe you want to share?
Well, book 3 is coming. It's gonna be a little later than planned. I have the pre-order set for January, and I wanted to try to release it sooner, but it's looking like it's gonna be January. But answers will be revealed, and we'll get to see Adric Gravel, so it'll be worth the wait.
It'll be worth the wait. People, get through the holidays. It's busy anyways. People aren't
Yeah,
able to read as much usually. You got Thanksgiving, Christmas, all the other stuff. Before we know it, January will be here.
exactly.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. Where can people log and kind of like find you best, whether that's connecting with you, via Instagram, Twitter, wherever you are and active? Where can people best find you?
I'm on all the social sites: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Rachel Leigh author and Rachel Leigh romance are my handles. I have a website, and all my books are on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel, for chatting with
Thank
me today.
you. Thank
You
you
guys
so
make
much.
sure that you're staying up to date on everything happening here at Michaela's Book Nook for more interviews, fun book reviews, and more. And until next time, bye, everybody.
Bye.